There is a microphone there if you want it.
Oh, I can yell. It's good. I've got 3 kids. I'm really good at yelling. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background from me, I started off with Fog Studios. I don't know. I guess anyone who's been to Jalloo before has probably heard of Fog. Basically, they represent game development studios all around the world, outsource studios, animation, art, sound, and interactive license representation. So I was with these guys for 5 years. And then from there, I went on to get into games, which was a Fog project. And basically what we did, we formed this company. Ed Dilly, who's the chairman and CEO of Fog, travels pretty much 250 days out of the year around the world, along with our sales team. And one thing we found out, and this was before the recession, of course, was that in talking to people, a lot of the students and the schools didn't have the contacts in the industry to help their students and their graduates and what have you get jobs. So we came up with this funky idea to create Get Into Games. And it was kind of like an eHarmony type of website. It still exists, and they're using it now. Apparently, it's still doing pretty good. And what it does, it basically connected the students and the graduates and the alumni with the game developers. They would want to list their jobs, the students would want to list their resumes, and the computer program that we developed matched them up. And it worked really well. So I did that until I left in January. And then I went to Bluedrop, Performance Learning. And I left Fredericton then, went back to St. John's, Newfoundland, and this is where I've been since. Bluedrop has been around. Any of you who just listened to the NRC presentation, we were mentioned there. Been in business since 1992. At that point in time, it was a company called Zcom, an IT company. And about 10 years ago, they split it off into the e-learning and the Zcom. Elaborate Scala, the owner, kept that part, and this is where we are today. We're founded in St. John's, Newfoundland, and that is our head office, although we do have an office in Fredericton, and that is our fastest growing office. And again, we are always looking for people, so kind of desperate for some programmers, Flash programmers, and IDs, and all those kinds of things. We have about 50 employees in Fredericton, adding 20 more in the new year, or before the end of the year. We have 3 other offices, Calgary, Halifax, where else? In the States as well. And still having fun after 17 years. It's a great place to work. Just a little bit more about us. Custom web learning, blended learning, simulation, and VTT. This is actually a picture of our office in St. John's, Newfoundland. We have lots of huge customers. We can go ahead again. Yeah. There's just a list of some of our customers. Don't know if you've all heard the Brandon Hall Award of Excellence. We've won that, and we work with a lot of the global leaders in 7 industries out there. The latest project from Bluedrop is something called Course Park. And what that is, it's the evolution of the learning management system. I'm not sure if you all know what an LMS is or about them, but we've created what we call a learning management network. So it's in the cloud as opposed to an LMS, which is really, really expensive, very difficult to learn, and then it takes 2 years to learn it. Once you learn it, then it all kind of needs to be redone again, just because technology has evolved and whatnot. So we're really excited about Course Park already, even though we're fairly new, where we've got really good clients. We've got Cougar, Husky, TSX, believe it or not, it's on board, Equitable Life. So we've already got some really good corporate customers going. So the things you can do with Course Park, you can train your employees, the companies can train their employees, you can train your customers, clients, or agents. You can enhance your own individual learning, or you can sell courses. And there's other features you can do with Course Park. You can actually, we have a couple course builders on there. You can build your own course and then sell it in our course market, which is a list of, right now, I think we've got about 2,000 courses in there. But as we go, individuals can build courses, add them, or if you want to build them and add them for your employees, you can do that too. Okay, Jason.
Sorry.
This is an we'll talk about the animation now. That's enough of my background. An interesting quote. You can teach a student a lesson for a day, but if you can teach him to learn by creating curiosity, he'll continue the learning process as long as he lives. And this is kind of, I guess, why edutainment came about. We'll talk a little bit more about exactly what it is, but it creates curiosity in people, and as you can see on the next slide, how do we learn? This is one of my favorite things in the world. It's called the cone of learning. And it just goes to show you the retention when you do something. If you just read something, 2 weeks later, you'll only remember, 10% of what you read. So what edutainment does is it gets people more involved in the learning, more active. So then if you look up top, by doing the real thing or simulating the real experience, 2 weeks later, you'll remember 90% of what you learned. And you can just look in between. Even if you hear something, you know it's amazing what interaction can do for your learning retention. And that's why edutainment, the more interesting what your learning is, the more you're going to retain. That's why edutainment is going in such a direction. It's increasing dramatically. It's crazy. And there's many more reasons for that too. Okay, what is edutainment? These are just a couple of definitions that I pulled off. It's entertainment that is intended to be educational. Click again. The act of learning through a medium that both educates and entertains, and any various media such as computer software that educate and entertain. So it's basically, and it's evolved over time so much. It started off with e-learning, and then games, and then of course they came together. And depending on what you read, some people will say the e-learning started it, other people will say that the gaming started it, but there's so many different methods of learning it too. We'll go to the next slide. Why edutainment? This is interesting. I was in the superstore a couple weeks ago, and I overheard the person in front of me saying to the person in front of her, I had to get my 12-year-old to fix my computer for me because, and then she went on with this thing. But this brings us back to why we need to have more edutainment, because Generation Y, this is all they know. This is how they learn. They just don't learn in traditional methods. It doesn't work. Because these are the guys that were born into the generation of knowing how to work a computer. I mean, my generation, we had to learn. These guys are born knowing it. I know I've got one kid, and I guess they were 12 years old, and I walked into the computer room. He and his friends were there. This is about 5 years ago, I guess, and I said to him, what are you doing? And he said, oh, we're just creating a radio station. I don't know if y'all know what Habo is. So they were doing Habo, and they actually created a radio station, and I'm just thinking to myself, how in the name of God did they even know where to begin to create a radio station? And they broadcasted like every day and had this audience. It was really cool. So that's why we have to go the extra mile to entertain these kids of the Generation Y. Because, you know, these are the people that are going to be in the workplace. Well, some of them already are. And then we have Z after that, which is probably going to be even worse. So who's using edutainment to learn? Well, we have parents. I'm sure you all know, or any of you who are parents, have the little computer games for your kids. That's edutainment. Teachers, it's really increasing the use of edutainment in classrooms now. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Individuals, let's say you need to learn another language. For example, there's so much software out there today that also comes under the category of edutainment to learn. Companies use it to train their employees, and I'll show you some of the stuff that Bluedrop has done, some of the courses we've done that we will be putting on Course Park. And some of them will be, well, you can either get them done custom, or some of them you can do to sell to the general public. Businesses to train their customers. I did something the other day where I was putting together a piece of furniture, and instead of an instruction manual, they actually had a link that showed us, and they made it really fun, the way to put together this bed thing, and it was a lot easier than just reading it off a piece of paper. The military, of course, they do have their forms of edutainment. Airlines, I've got a friend who's a captain with Air Canada. They do this all the time with simulations, but again, today they make it more fun, and the list expands daily. Are there different forms of edutainment? Yes. So the big one, of course, is video games. And Big Brain Academy was one of the big sellers, but there's millions of them now. And of course, that's where it ties into a lot of you guys with the video games and game design. Educational movies are big, like the IMAX Under the Sea and 3D, and there's all kinds of these. They show these in schools today and all over the world. Interactive technologies such as smartboards. New Brunswick is, I'm so proud of New Brunswick. They're so ahead of the game. Every classroom with school boards throughout New Brunswick now have smart boards in their classrooms. The biggest challenge, of course, is getting the teachers trained to know how to use them,